the 2015 national championship team. Do you think that was obviously the best team you've ever had here as the Fresno Grizzlies, right?
I mean, I believe.
That dong. All right, ready? We're going to clap on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Woo! There it is.
That was good. We're live. Israel, are we live?
Yep.
Are these mics working?
Yep.
All right, cool. Welcome in. Newest episode. We are at Chuck Chansey Park inside the office of the man, the boss, GM of the Fresno Grizzlies, Derek Franks. Derek, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for letting us come in and just like take over your whole entire field operation and just let us run wild like some crazy idiots.
That's what it's here for, I think.
All right.
At least this time of year.
You said it. Yeah. You
Off
said
the
it.
field into the wild, right there. We just bring the wild show.
Yeah.
And hit that. Yeah, appreciate you doing this. This is really cool. I haven't been back here since I played here. It's not really a big deal. It's not a flex. It's kind of like a, wow, you're a minor league guy. But
no, but this minor
suck.
league stadium is one of the best that I've like seen. So it's like it's cool to like be able to come in here and have it be in Fresno, be home, like kind of, even if it is a single A, like low A affiliate or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it was the triple A, but now it's like, but it's still an awesome field to go to.
Yeah, it was AAA when I was here, and now it's single A with the Rockies.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
You went Giants, Astros, Nationals, and the Rockies.
Correct. Yeah. And this
So,
this was our third year with the Rockies. We did one with the Nationals.
How has it been?
Out of two, it was supposed to be two, I guess.
You only did 1 year with them?
19 and then 20.
Oh, because nobody played in 20. That's tough. So what's the difference? Has there been a difference? Have you seen anything with being a AAA affiliate compared to a single A affiliate?
I mean, I think the positives are, there were a lot of there's some guys like you in AAA that were cool. Like we could ask you to do things and go do charity things, and you in particular because you were a local guy who happened to play on our team, which was really unusual. So we were like, man, we want him to do the bull rope thing for social media. And so you did all that stuff. And there were obviously some really cool guys, and every team's different. But I think by and large, at the lower level, you've got younger players. A lot of these guys, it's their first time putting on a Grizzlies uniform, a professional uniform since they've been signed. And so I think, that part is fun for us. Our part of the job is going out and doing community events and doing sponsorship things and making it fun and hoping that they interact with the fans and do those little things to make selling tickets and make it a more fun environment. I think at single A, you definitely get more of that across the board for sure.
Yeah, I just thought of that right now when you were speaking, because single A, a lot of these guys, this is their first full professional season. And AAA, you're getting like the old salty veterans that just got sent down from big league camp. They don't want to be in minor leagues. They have wives and kids. When I was here, the majority of the guys were like 28, 29, 30.
Right.
I was one of the youngest ones on the team. I think I was like 24, 25 at the time. Now you're having 18, 19, 20-year-old kids coming in for their first professional season. I bet that's a lot different.
Yeah, I think they're blown away, and they come into our ballpark, obviously.
Especially here, because this is by far the biggest, nicest, and best in the Cal League, right? You guys are Cal League?
Yeah, in the Cal League, yeah. So, yeah, I think for that reason, too, they come to our ballpark, and they're not used to playing in a facility like this. So it's cool. You can see their eyes get this big, and it's a big deal. And so I think that's one of the main differences is just at that level, it's just way more of a wow for the guys coming in, and that's across the board for sure.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say most, but the guys that went to, like Vandy or, LSU, like the bigger, nicer colleges, they're already used to the nice setup, the nice facility, and then sometimes they'll go, at least when I was in single A, some of those parks are not that nice, so they downgraded because they had a real professional locker room, sold out crowd all the time. Then they go to single A in some random state and they get a downgrade. Mostly, I would say every new player that comes here has been upgraded, their facilities and stuff, which is pretty cool for your first year in pro ball.
For sure. And look, it's not to say that we didn't have, again, we had a lot of good guys on every team's different, and we've always had good. I think all of our affiliates, Giants, Astros, Nationals, Rockies, have all been the same. They want their guys out in the community. That's part of the development. Every farm director and every group has told us that that's important to them. So, but at AAA level, the stakes are maybe a little bit higher. Some of the guys are further along, and so you're not necessarily getting the wow and the appetite to just kind of do whatever we ask, like we do at Single A, which has been kind of fun to watch.
A little bit different. And we were talking yesterday about how the locker room, you guys are redoing the locker room.
Yeah.
And you said something to keep up with MLB standards, like because the players nowadays get treated a lot better than we do. We kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. Yeah. Like I think it was my third year at AAA before I saw a comma in my check. Not that you don't pay me. This was from the affiliate, the Astros. This is just how
Sure.
it used to be. Now you have AAA guys making, I think, 42 or 48 grand for the year, and that's 6 months. They get free housing. We had to find our own housing, sign our own lease, and then now you guys have to. Do you have to upgrade it, or are you just doing it because it hasn't been upgraded in a while? Or
all the stuff we're doing is to meet the new standards. So in 2021, when MLB redid the stadium facility rubric, you'd think a AAA stadium that's at Single A, you would walk into that situation and go, well, they don't have to do anything. It's already an outstanding facility. But the standards really have to do a lot with square footage in the locker room space and the training space, how many lockers fit in the coaching area, batting cages for both teams that are comparable to each other, and the list goes on. Female locker rooms, we've had female strength coach last year on our team, and then for the teams coming in, that's more common. So to accommodate all the new standards, we're pretty close because we've got, the square footage and stuff like that is close
it's
here.
It's a big space down there.
But we're doing over $2 million renovation to all underground right now to, sort of rearrange the home side. You've been down there, like the commissary was really just like we had a room that you could serve yourself food, and then you kind of had to go find a place to eat somewhere else. So we're building a commissary lounge space that's a combination that meets the new standard. And some other things to just sort of make it a better space. So just kind of rearranging the home side, and then the visiting side gets completely, it almost doubles in size when it's all said and done. The way that the food's set up now is there's 2 rows of lockers and there's picnic tables down the center of the room. And they, back years ago, they took 2 lockers and like retrofitted them into like what I'd call like a kitchenette that you'd see like in like
a microwave, like a single burner stove.
Yeah, exactly. Like you'd see in a like a extended stay. Yeah. And so not adequate for today's standards, and really kind of makeshift even back then. So luckily we have a concession office on the other side of a sort of a cinder block wall, and they're blowing that out and building a proper commissary, extending out and building more showers for the coaches and more space on that side. So the visiting side will really is where most of the work's getting done. And then the women's facilities, and we're relocating the concessionaire and a bunch of other cosmetic stuff down there to just make it all work.
Wow. Players are kind of spoiled nowadays.
Yeah, it sounds like
I remember when teams would come in, especially guys that were from California, but because we used to be PCL, right? Like guys would fly in from Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans. So they would come in, and the guys that hadn't had In-N-Out in a while, the clubby would always be making trips to In-N-Out. So I knew that they didn't really care what food that you had, because they were going to send the clubby to go get In-N-Out. And he would always come, guys, I'm going to In-N-Out. You want anything? And we'd be like, yeah, double.
So how does it work with like being appointed? Because when you're with the Giants and with the Astros, you were AAA, and now you're with the Single A with the Rockies. How does that kind of work? Like, is it club decisions, or kind of like
and the terms and everything?
Yeah, is it like the market, based on the market? And because you guys have the facility to have a AAA team here, and I know that's probably more of a draw to get more fans here, is to have a AAA team here.
Sure.
So how does that kind of work? Yeah,
I'm glad you asked that, because I get it. This is the most common question we get asked, even 3 years in with the Rockies at Single A. And so, market and ballpark and a lot of that stuff really doesn't have much to do with what directly happened. You can kind of go back, I think, in our situation, back to what I would call the old minor league baseball system, which effectively the last term of minor league baseball's agreement with Major League Baseball went through the 2020 season. It was about 30 years. There was 3 10-year deals in there going back. And so the thing that our ownership group bought into years ago, the first group bought and then changed hands a few times, was to be members of minor league baseball, owned a franchise as part of minor league baseball, which had essentially an operating partnership with Major League Baseball to do the minor league system. That expired. And so, I think the combination of COVID happening to be the sort of the last year of the old term, and circumstances related to facility standards and travel and things of that nature, it gave Major League Baseball the chance to say, all right, let's take a step back. Let's look at the geography. Let's look at all the circumstances, and let's sort of take this opportunity to reset and maybe fix some things that from their perspective didn't really work for player development anymore.
So is that why teams like, sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
is that why teams like, High Desert and Lancaster that were used to be in the Cal League are no longer, because those places were not good.
I mean, I think they were out years prior to this happening, but I think both of those had facility issues. Bakersfield, I think, was trying to build a new stadium, and they had so much time to do it before they did something.
MLB lost they took away 40-something affiliates, right?
Right.
So a lot of teams lost their affiliate or their ability to be an affiliate minor league team, right?
Which I think MLB came in and is a partner with all of ththose leagues in a different way, and so they kind of reimagined this and said, what does player development look like today versus maybe something we came up with 30 years ago? Lots changed, and I would say geography is a big factor. I mean, we were in the Pacific Coast League, Fresno, Sacramento, Tacoma, Omaha, Iowa, Nashville, New Orleans. So, I mean, some of these leagues had sort of over time, because of teams selling and cities putting up money for new stadiums and things like that, had just sort of changed and evolved in a way that, perhaps didn't make sense. I think for Fresno, especially a place with not a lot, you did this firsthand, not a lot of direct flights to all the other PCL cities. So we had a reputation of being a tough travel town for, people asked me when the Giants decided not to renew with us, they'd say, well, it's so easy to get guys from AAA to San Francisco. It's just a 3-hour drive. That's really simple. That is simple, but part of the reason that they didn't like Fresno, I believe, and Sacramento was the preferred option, was just the day-to-day travel for the guys like you that were on our team that go, all right, we got to get up at 3 a.m. to catch the 5:30 to connect in Phoenix to get to El Paso, and it's a long, grueling thing that just is, and now you look at what they did today. The PCL is 10 teams that are all Texas or West. It travels a lot better. So I think you had 30 years of things that changed with the old system that Major League Baseball had the chance to go, we're going to design something that's more modern. And in our case, the old system we had a little bit more choice. We could go out. We had the ability, when the Giants told us they were going to Sacramento, we had a window where you go out and go, all right, these are the teams that are available. We ended up with Houston, which was fun. I mean, we had championship run and
best minor league baseball team in minor league baseball history.
Yeah. I mean, really special. And we knew Reed Ryan from before all that, and so all those things were really cool. So we had some ability to go out and match make a little bit. Same with, but then we kind of, it's like musical chairs, but there's no chairs to get pulled out, right? Mm-hmm. So I think in Washington's case, they end up with Fresno. Probably wasn't their first choice. It's not not because of the ballpark or because of us or anything like that. In fact, I think if our ballpark and our front office was in Richmond or something, we would have signed forever. We loved working with the Nationals. But it just makes no sense because you can't get guys there, Yeah. And the travel within the minor league system is even worse. You got, Fresno out here, and they've got to get guys to AA and single A that are out that way. So I think geography played in for us. And at the end of the day, there was really not a West Coast fit for AAA when they realigned things. And that's how, luckily for us, the Rockies chose Fresno and moved from Lancaster to here. And we're thankful to have the Rockies, awesome partners. And, they chose us, which I think is really cool. The old system, it was a little bit more, you could go out and match make, but it didn't always work out the way you wanted. And in our case now, the Rockies picked us, and we've got a long-term deal. It's awesome.
Yeah, the travel was tough here.
And I would also think it would be more of common sense. You want everybody close together, right? You want all your affiliates close together, so it's not a horrible thing. Okay, you're doing spring training in Arizona, and you have San Francisco and then Fresno and whatever, because it wasn't this low A, San Jose or something like that. So it's everybody's close. I feel that would be more common sense. And you even see college football doing it too now, where Pac-12 is getting demolished, and USC and UCLA are going to be playing on the East Coast half the season. So it's like,
Right.
I think it's dumb, but I always thought they should just break it up by regions, like a Pacific Coast League. Everything is on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Like, makes sense.
Which they've basically achieved that.
Yeah.
More of that in the kind of
The
how
new
they
deal,
redrew
yeah.
things for sure.
Yeah, I'm just like, these, they're chasing dollars, and it's just like, where's the like logistics of it too? You know, instead of like, oh, we're gonna get a couple $100,000 more dollars, but what about like the logistics on like the player or the staff or whatever it is? I don't know.
I think it was just a long-awaited change that needed to happen. Like at the big league level, they kept evolving and getting better, and the minor leagues just kind of like stayed the same. Not when it comes to like talent-wise, but it was just like minor league players, you didn't make much money, you were grinding, and that's how it was supposed to be, because you were supposed to grind, you were supposed to be in the slums and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then that was going to help you get to the big leagues. Kind of like that old school way of thinking. Like, you know, the famous saying, you don't like it, play better, right?
Right.
We come to these facilities where, man, this place sucks. We don't have any food. We got to play in high desert. We got to play in what was the worst? Colorado Springs was kind of bad, and it was always freezing cold. And everybody would just be like, you don't like it, play better. You know, like, get to the big leagues. And it's like,
ours was, you should have played better in college.
should have played better in college.
That was ours for sure.
Yeah, so it was just like a long overweighted thing that needed to happen with like the pay scale and all that. And I know that there was a lot of lawyers, and I think a few past minor league baseball players ended up becoming lawyers, and they kind of like fought back against it and stuff, and did it because I got a check in the mail for some money, like back pay that like didn't get paid because I didn't make very much money playing minor league baseball. But we had people in our corner that, you know, stuck up for us, and we ended up getting taken care of a little bit. So I think it was just a long overdue thing that is finally coming better now,
For sure.
which is good to see.
And I think back to the facility upgrades we're doing, I think the new standards were overdue as well. And, you know, we've kept our ballpark up and put a lot of money into it over the years, but we didn't expand the visiting clubhouse to have a proper commissary, and we don't have 2 batting cages, 1 for each team. So those are just a couple things that, you know, if you aren't guided to do those things, you're probably not going to do them. You're going to do things that, you know, maybe suit the home side and not the visiting side because you're just your ballpark, and it is what it is. Or you're going to put a lot of your funds into fan-facing things like new video boards and picnic areas and things. So yeah, I mean, it puts us all on a path to have better playing conditions and make it more livable for the team in our facilities.
Has this changed anything with you guys, like now that you're single A, when it comes to the fans? Are you guys having to be a little bit more creative? Because like when you were with the Giants, there was a lot of Giants fans here, and then with the Astros, I noticed that you guys became a little bit more creative, and then with the Nationals and stuff too. With, you know, when it comes to concert, like the taco and the taco truck throwdown, that was one of the coolest games that like I'd ever, besides being in Mexico, because Mexico is just a riot. But that was one of the coolest games that I've ever played in. In 2015, we had the taco truck throwdown, sold out crowd. There was people partying in the streets. So like I noticed that you kind of had changed just from like the normal Giants fans coming to support their AAA players because, you know, Bumgarner would come down, or Matt Cain, or those guys, or Barry Zito, they'd come get to see those guys. When the Astros came in, it was a little bit different. How'd you see that change evolve with team to team?
You know, it's funny. I've told this story a lot, not recently though. You know, I'm from Fresno. I grew up in Kingsburg. I'm a Fresno person that happened to come here and as an intern, and then luckily they let me run this team right in my backyard, my hometown. And for many years, the easiest way to get the community pumped up and sell more tickets was to just piggyback off the Giants. So we changed our colors to orange and black. That's a pretty natural thing to do. But then, you know, 2010, when they won the World Series, in 2011, our attendance jumped a bunch, and we didn't do a lot differently. It was just like the hype was really great, and we might have done like World Series rings as a promotion, I think, or something. But it was overnight, like, wow. So you kind of get in here and go, man, we do a lot of creative things, and we do all these other promotions that all these teams do, and a lot of these things work. But the Giants winning really like made our job a heck of a lot easier and was a meaningful increase. So we spent that period from 10, 11, 12, like really going all in Giants. Like the Giants were great. They would let us sort of piggyback off their giveaways. So we would kind of go, all right, here's a couple things we'll do that are ours, and then we'll bring the Pablo Sandoval giveaway from San Francisco, and we'll tell our fans, hey, we'll save you the drive, that type of stuff to just create that synergy. And there was a point where 2013 came, and we were just doing a lot of this stuff, and it kind of felt to me as especially a local guy, like trying to do the minor league baseball thing, I was like, this is starting to feel like uninspired. We're just like buying their giveaways and like doing, it's just like low hanging fruit type stuff, and we're doing farm grown and tying it to Fresno. I mean, Sam Hansen, our marketing director for all those years, was always really great at bringing us back local. But I wasn't. I was just like smacking the low-hanging fruit and just trying to sell more tickets,
Like I was smacking them out there?
Yeah, like Kenny out there.
We'll get into that. Just wait.
And so, in 2014, it's funny that this is true. At one point I was like, this is when Taco Truck Throwdown had been a few years in as a much smaller event. Sam was really doing a lot of cool, interesting stuff that was market driven and Fresno centric. But it's sort of like hiding under this Giant stuff that I kept, grabbing onto. And we had this talk. It started to feel like repetitive, and like we can't count on the Giants winning the World Series every other year. I said this like I think going into 14. And like we got to do something different. So we started the process that you mentioned with Houston. We were evolving into that anyway. And I literally said, like, they can't win it every other year. And they did one more time. But, we had already said we got to shift our focus to something more long-term. When the team doesn't win, you don't get that automatic boost. Kind of go back to the roots of what this is to begin with. When I walked in here when I was like 20-year-old kid, they're like, we don't market the players because they're gone the next day. We don't know if the team's ever going to be good, so we don't rely on that. And we had gotten away from that. So, changing to a team, Houston, that had really no fan base, accelerated that thing we were kind of easing into, and kind of, that mindset that we had developed to like cherry pick all the cool Giant stuff was kind of withering away anyway. And it really set us up for changing again to the Nationals, changing again to Single A and the Rockies. Is that, this is a Fresno team, and even when we signed with Houston, we changed our home uniform and made a big deal about the fact we put Fresno. Usually the home uniform says Grizzlies, the team name, and most teams wear the city on the road, you notice. And so we were like, we're going to wear Fresno on the front. So we did these things that were like, we're going to remind you that this is a Fresno team no matter what. Mm-hmm. And I think all that stuff that happened from, like, I would say 13 to 15, that we kind of changed our mindset, has really set us up to still be successful today, as it's changed a few times since then.
Nice.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's just crazy to like sit back and like look at, like, because when I was in college, like Buster Posey was like here, and I remember watching Buster Posey play here. So it's like
Tim Lincecum when he was the biggest deal in MLB.
It was so cool.
I mean, Posey and Bumgarner were on the same squad together. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember like seeing those guys here, and it was just like so cool. And then seeing them in the World Series like 2 years later or whatever it was, and just went in. I'm just like, man, like they were just in our backyard playing, and now they're just like MVPs of the World Series. Super cool.
Yeah. Going back to the 2015 National Championship team, do you think that was obviously the best team you've ever had here as the Fresno Grizzlies, right?
I mean, I believe so. I mean, Jonathan's sitting over here. He would tell me, like, if there was some statistical thing that said otherwise, but I don't think that there is.
Yeah, that was the most, like, fun team. We talked about with Tony a little bit the other day, and it was weird because normally in the minor leagues, if you're not getting called up to the big leagues, you kind of just can't wait for it to be done, especially if you're not making the playoffs. Like, you just kind of want to go home. It's a long, grueling season. And we were kind of like, you know what, we're all here. We might as well just do it and just win this thing. And it was one of the most fun teams that I've ever been a part of. We were so good. Just a couple of guys that were on that team, Tony Kemp, Carlos Correa for a little bit. Lance McCullers was here for a day, but you just got to throw his name in there. Singleton, Matt Duffy was the MVP, Domingo Santana, Max Stassi, like all guys that have done very, very well in the big leagues. We're all on this team, and every single one of those dudes and every single one of those guys in the locker room could have been in the big leagues that year and put up a good fight.
Yeah.
What was your most memorable moment, and do you think that was the best Fresno Grizzlies team?
The reason I knew it was the best team is late in the year. My favorite part about it is as we started to lose some players that got called up to fill in for injuries or whatever, and we wanted to win really bad. I mean, the Fresno team had only made the playoffs, I think, in 1998, if I remember right. Before I was here, I started in 04. And this team the Giants team we had all these great players, like you mentioned, like the list goes on of Bumgarner, Kane, and Lincecum, and all these great players. We never made the postseason, so we had never experienced it. So we wanted it really bad. So every time a guy would get called up or something would happen, we'd be like, don't call that guy up. Don't do that. And then somebody else would come in who was just as good or better. And I think of Tyler White as the guy. They're like, they're like, oh, this dude won the AA home run derby. We're like, all right, cool. He's probably good. And I remember watching him hit, like, he just raked, and this was toward the end, like in the playoffs, So it was just cool that, and there's other guys like that. I think Tony Kemp ended up, did he come up late like that too?
I think he came out the last 2 months of the year, I think.
Yeah, so it seemed like every time that we were like, oh, we're screwed. Even at the very end, and my favorite memory of the whole thing is, oh gosh, I told you earlier I always forget people's names. What's the kid who closed? He was a reliever, and then he started for us in the championship game in El Paso.
Devo,
Chris Davinsky.
The Dragon.
Yeah, the Dragon, dude. So we and then we had the starter who was with the A's, who was really good, redheaded dude. I can't believe I'm getting so old I can't remember these guys.
I don't know. We need a timeout?
Yeah, start real quick. That's on pictures.
Did you not press record?
No, I did.
Wait, redhead starting pitcher?
Dude, he was cool as fuck. He was with the A's, and he like threw a ton. JB, you know who that is?
I'm working on it. In the 2015 team.
Yeah.
2015.
Sorry, I'll clean this up if you guys edit these. I assume.
Redhead. Yeah. No, we're back rolling. We're good.
Good picture him. Dan Straley.
Dan
Straley.
Yeah, he was good.
So Straley had big league time, and then he ended up, he was back, and so at the end, he had, I think he led the league in the PCL that year in a bunch of categories, strikeouts, probably wins.
Yeah, I do that through like 88, 90, just punching tickets left and right.
Yeah,
he was good.
He was a stud, and he was a really, really great guy too. By the way, he was cool. But they called up Straley, and we're like, man, we got to go to the national championship game, and they're going to start this guy, Chris Davinsky, who I only remember him throwing in relief in Round Rock or something like that, maybe one or two times. And so I didn't know how good the guy was or whatever, but you're like, our ace, they're calling up our ace. Like, they couldn't let him go one more day, And then, of course, Devo comes in and just, like, is not only a character. We didn't know how, like he was a character, and he had that crazy energy, dude. He was so awesome. But he shoved in that game and like pitched 6 shutout innings or whatever. And then at the end of the whole deal, he's not from Fresno, but he called out the 559 on MLB TV at the end when they put the mic in front. So it was just like, man, every time that we thought we were hosed on call ups and roster changes, somebody else who was awesome came in. That's what I always remember about that.
Yeah, and I think that we had that, kind of established in the locker room. Like the veterans kind of just took it. We're like, oh, we're in Fresno, travel sucks, whatever, but like we're just gonna do it, and like we're the tacos. It like started out as a joke, but then it became like serious, and like guys actually like truly wanted to win. It was, of course, guys want to get called up to the big leagues and go to the big leagues, but I think the Astros being so good that year and them not expecting to be that good because they were still kind of rebuilding. Right. They didn't plan to contend for a World Series for like the next couple of years, but they were building up the minor league. So the minor league team was stacked. That's why we had so many good players. Every time somebody would come up, we were so stacked that they just fit right in. And the big league team was so good at the time, they weren't getting rid of guys, and nobody was getting hurt. Nobody was going on the DL, so we were just stuck here. All of us were stuck here. Like we would have conversations with the manager, and like when the Rovers would come in and be like, guys, like, we can't do anything. If there's not a spot, we can't bring you up. It's just kind of one of those things. So it was a good mix of both the Astros being good at the same time, AAA being good at the same time, AA. Like it was like the Astros just had like that good year in 2015. They didn't even expect to make the playoffs. They made the playoffs. They had a pretty good run. Mm-hmm. So I think it was just a good year all the way down from the Astros all the way down to throughout the minor league system.
That's a great point. Yeah, and I think they won like 20 more games year over year from like 14 to 15.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we were trying to market this thing, of course, and get people to buy into the Astros versus everybody's favorite team, the Giants, who just won the World Series. So we you know, they win the series in October, I guess, right, or November. And we are with the Astros, and the signing period happens before the World Series. So you have this awkward thing where that was our season and our guys in 14. But by the time they win it, you're already with the Astros, so it's funny because you have like, we're sitting here with our fans cheering on the 2014 World Series because it's like, well, that was our last year, and technically those are some of our guys that are still there, even though we've already signed for next year with a different team. And Sacramento, who just got them, is celebrating them as a marketing thing too.
Yeah,
so it's funny.
It's so close, right?
Yeah,
there,
and so it's funny you have two teams like holding on and trying to get everything out of this like World Series thing. Really interesting how that all works out. But I was going up on the podium and stuff saying like, we're going to be stacked. And I remember Quentin McCracken and even Reed was like, hey, we don't want to promise too much on the player side. You know? And I was like, all right, yeah, we're going to be stacked, you know. And I just kept saying how good we're going to be, how, you know, talking about how whatever the ranking was as far as where they were ranked as far as best farm system. Mm-hmm. And I just kept saying things like, we're going to win a lot of games. And I remember those guys being like, just, you know, try to tone it down on the wins a little bit. But we just kept doing it, and thank God it came true. I said it enough times, so that was really I was thankful for that too.
We had your back.
How does it kind of work, like with like, because when I hear like GM, right, I hear like being a football guy, GM is like a guy who's making roster cuts and getting all these guys off the roster, bringing new guys in, as a kind of like a lower division, not like the major leagues. How does that kind of work? Like, what's your role in the kind of roster moves and stuff like that when it comes to being in a AAA or a single A?
Yeah, I think general manager is probably at the minor league level is the most misleading title of that there is, for that reason that, and I didn't have the heart to tell you earlier. Well, I know we'll talk about the hitting later, the hitting session. But Kenny's like, we're going to sign my contract. And, you know, I never, when people say that to me, I never have the heart to be like, I just sell popcorn and shoot off fireworks and stuff.
I was like, dude, you don't know shit. What are you talking about?
I mean, the closest thing we do to player development is wash their laundry and put them on buses and planes and sort of roll out the facility and you know, things like we're doing the clubhouse expansion, but nothing to do with the roster whatsoever. I have a joke I've been saying forever that if I tried to tell anybody what to do baseball wise, I'd probably get fired. So I just stick to selling popcorn and lighting off fireworks and stuff.
Gotcha.
So we get to run the business around player development, and that all gets done with the Rockies. And I joke that we have nothing to do with it. We don't, but you know, we work really closely with their farm director on what the needs of the team are when they're here, so that they can focus on baseball. And so we're just basically hosts and they make all the roster moves, and we accommodate.
You're the manager of the business,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
And then and then the higher up organization is managing the roster, and then you kind of just get dealt whatever you get dealt, and then you gotta win with it, and you gotta make them cool and make them in the community and all that kind of stuff,
right?
Because them being out in the community and is only going to be good for them to go for the majors to see them in the community and see them being involved and wanting them to be a part of like a team, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this level, like we kind of have the ability to go ask the players to do community things, and we always find players that will do that, even on limited amount of time. Like the schedule doesn't permit a lot of stuff, but that's a requirement once you get to the big leagues. And so I mentioned earlier, all the farm directors that we've worked with have had the same, belief in their system, which is this preps the guys, because once you get to the big leagues, you don't get asked, you get told where to go and what to do. So it preps you to be able to go out and do it and speak in front of people and go to the hospital visits and things like that. So it's good for the kids for sure.
You mean, do you get do minor league guys get like sponsorships from like around town, or is that kind of hard because they're so in and out of the city? I mean, you don't have guys really here for a long period of time, so is it hard for you to kind of get them really involved with like the community, or like say a business to get them some extra money because they're only here and they're trying to get out here as fast as possible?
I haven't had any experience to my knowledge where we've had any local sponsorship or endorsement type things like that. And I think the most likely scenario part of it is like the schedule really doesn't permit for a lot of extra stuff. I mean, it does now more than it used to, but like when you played here, there was no off days.
Anything.
But the most likely scenario would be a guy like you, honestly, that's from the area. Somebody might go, we want the local
how
guy.
I didn't get any deals? What
Nobody
happened?
wants
Hey,
Tyson.
man.
Nobody
Hey,
wants
told-
Tyson.
hey,
I told you, I just sell popcorn, man. Somebody else has to sell your deals.
Yeah, that is a really good question now because college sports has changed a lot with the NIL and they're getting paid and stuff. You see the quarterback in Fresno State's got to deal with Kloss and Honda and like they're doing a lot of other stuff. Minor league baseball, well, so college didn't get to do it because they were amateur, right? You can't get paid or you lose your amateur status. You get paid in scholarship, all this stuff. But as a minor league player, you're a professional athlete. Like you can get those endorsement deals, but you never really see it. And I never thought about that either. It's like, why don't you get deals with local places, or you going with a sandwich shop? It's like, first of all, nobody really knows who you are because you're in the minor leagues. Nobody wants to pay for that. But then second, like you said, is you literally have no time. Like how we were talking about with the flights and the schedule and stuff. Like we would play a game here and then have to be back at the field at 3:30 in the morning to catch a 4 a.m. bus ride. Because is it true that if you weren't on the first flight out, you would get fined by the league?
I mean, I think that's true. They would send us fine things all the time.
Yeah,
stuff.
so
And
we
I
had
think
to be
some
on
of it
the
was due to
first
travel.
flight out, and we always had to catch a connector.
Mm-hmm.
So we would fly an hour, change planes, fly another hour, get in, check into the hotel, put your bag down, and then go straight to the field. Like we would never have time to do any of that stuff. And like the grind of the travel from being in Fresno, like I do agree, it was tough. It's nothing that you guys can do. It just sucks. It would be easy if you had a chartered flight to go from here to every single spot, right? It's a lot different. But the schedule when it comes to baseball is so much different from other sports. You see those guys on TV a lot more because they're playing every day, and that's why you don't see them in outside stuff as much as you do NBA players and NFL players.
You know, you mentioned the travel again on that national championship game in El Paso. I love this because you mentioned the travel being tough and you guys just went for it.
I think I know where you're going with
the
this one.
travel on that was probably the worst travel trip of the entire year. And so we you guys won game 5 here on a Sunday against Round Rock. And then we had to have you guys in El Paso on Tuesday by noon for a media session, if I remember. No, Monday by noon, right?
I wasn't there.
Well, you didn't travel this trip?
No.
Oh, you were already gone.
I was here when we won. We won in Round Rock, and then I left and went to Houston because I had surgery.
Oh, you weren't here for game 5.
I was here when we beat Round Rock for the PCO.
Oh, got it.
Championship.
But you didn't go to El Paso.
I didn't go for when we played the other league for the AAA national championship.
So games on Tuesday night. They want the team there Monday. For a media session. So the only way to get the Grizzlies to El Paso for this game, Columbus had already won their game in fewer games, so they already had a rest day. And then we got word. I remember Dwight Hall from the PCL who handled all the travel. He called me and he goes, "Hey, just want to give you a heads up that just as a courtesy for you guys to know, Columbus is going to charter their whole team and their front office and their mascot. They're going to charter a flight into El Paso." And I was like, I mean, good for them. If we could have done it, we would have done it, but we couldn't do it. So it was like, shoot. And so we're like, we can't afford to do the charter thing. Like it wasn't in the cards back then at all. And so they went here on a Sunday afternoon. Of course, they're celebrating and doing the whole thing, whatever. And we ended up busing them that evening to Sacramento, and they basically caught like the 6 a.m. out of Sacramento straight into El Paso. But for a lot of the guys that were here celebrating the championship, they just went from partying to on the bus to Sacramento, and they got in, and so we got them there Monday afternoon, and it was raining in El Paso, and they banged the media session. So they did all that misery of travel. Like some of the guys didn't sleep and went straight from the clubhouse party and whatever to the airport in Sacramento, got them there, and they rained out the media session. So then it was like we did all that and we didn't even need to be here. And so I was like, dude, we're going to go into this thing and they're just going to be so beat up and bummed out. They're going to find out the other team came in pure style and like all this stuff. And so that was just the most Fresno thing to do. Also, just come in grimy and beat the team that like came in luxury, dude. It was that was my.
I remember that.
It was just perfect in every way.
I remember like the group chat going off about like partying and then just taking it, and we were like, well, let's just go party on the bus, like just like continue to go. Like I remember the group chat going off.
We had a trip like that at Fresno State where we couldn't afford. This is the end of my career there, so it was like end of Pat Hill. And we're playing Hawaii. We bust to San Francisco, or the offense bust to San Francisco, defense bust to LAX, and then flew out commercial to Hawaii. It was horrible.
We had a trip. We were coming from El Paso. This was like probably like mid-year. We were coming from El Paso. We had a day game. We were leaving that night, and we were going to land, and we had an off day the next day. One of the rare off days that you have, because at PCL you would travel a lot on your off day.
Yep.
So we'd have a full off day at home, so everybody was so excited about that. Play the game, go to the airport, flight's delayed, guys are at the bar drinking, having a good time. Flight ends up getting canceled. So everybody's just like, great, typical. Like, it didn't even bother us. We're like, yeah, of course this is going to happen. Like, of course. We're in the minor leagues grinding. So a couple of the big league guys, John Singleton and LJ Hose and Santana and Chapman, all these guys that had money that had been on the 40-man roster all year, they all get together and they get the bright idea to get a private jet. And they're like, screw this. We're not going to stay in El Paso. We want to go home for the off day. So they were trying to get as many guys as they could to like buy in or, pay a little bit so they can split this. I think it was almost $20,000 to go from El Paso to LA. It wasn't even Fresno. It was LA. And they're like, Tice, you want in? It'll only be $1,000 or something like this. For you. Like, it's going to be $3,000 for all of us, or only $500 for you. I was like, guys, I got no money. I'm just going to wear this. And they ended up getting a private jet. It was Singleton, LJ Hose, and Domingo Santana. They all split it, all three of them. And as soon as they booked the private jet, we got a flight out from El Paso and came home. But they spent the day in LA and had a good time. They enjoyed their off day.
It's crazy the difference of some of the guys who've been up for a bit or got drafted in the first round or whatever and have some money already.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Like I said, it was my third year triplet before I had a comma in one of my checks, and the guy next to me, I'm not going to say how much, but let's just say it was a lot closer to $100,000 than it was $1,000 for his paycheck because, they have split deals from the minor leagues. They got to make so much of what they made the year before because we had a lot of big league guys on that team. We had a lot of veterans. So you had guys making money and you had guys next to people that weren't making money. That's the very interesting thing about AAA. You had guys on the roster that literally go up and down from the big leagues. They got money. Their wives are here. They got the Louis purses. Kids are taken care of. Nannies. You got me and Tootie. I'm bringing her a peanut butter and jelly sandwich afterwards. You know what I mean? Like, it's different. It's different.
I bet. That's the weird thing about football too, because there's no minor leagues. You're either in it or you're not, and that's what's kind of crazy. Like you can kind of justify you like not being there because it's like, okay, like I'm either in the show or I'm not in the show, and it's like, and if you're not in the show for a while, then you're just done. But if you're kicking around the minor leagues for 10 years, it's just like, man, this sucks. Like making a couple grand here and there, and like me, I was home for a whole year and it sucked for sure. But like I got called up 1 week and made good money, Mm-hmm. So it was like, there was no like, oh, I'm like hurting my arm or hurting my body to like make a roster for like a AAA team or like even like a minor league team, just trying for the hope to get pulled up to the big leagues. And I'm sitting there saying I'm either in it or I'm not. Like that's just what it is. Like that's the crazy part about baseball is you can play forever and not even sniff the major leagues.
Yeah, it happens to guys. Then you have guys that get called. Well, nowadays when we're talking to Tony Kemp, you have a lot of guys getting called up to the big leagues that have like 40 days in the minor leagues, like 20 days in the minor leagues, half a year. That did not happen when I was in the minor leagues. Like you went single A, double A, triple A to the big leagues, and like it took you at least 3 or 4 years, unless you were a college guy, first rounder, kind of like the Mark Appels of the world. He was supposed to be in the big leagues. He was on that team with us. He was supposed to be in the big leagues super quick, kind of struggled. Unfortunate for him, but it took you a while. You kind of had to do that grind, earn your stripes type of a thing. And now these guys are so good in college, and they don't care. Some teams don't care about winning, like in the big leagues at this time. They care about the future. So like we're gonna call this guy up, pay him league minimum. We don't want to pay this veteran the $20 million that we have to. So we just call him up, get as much exposure to the big league level as possible, and then in 2 or 3 years, hopefully that they're good. It's the baseball has changed big time.
For me, I'm in March of next year. I'll have worked here for 20 years. And so in that period, as a guy who's just worked on the business side but just observed baseball change during that time, it's really fascinating to see. And again, it's not surprising to me that the minor league system got sort of redone in the way that it did with different standards and whatnot, because just the data and watching, especially a team like Houston, how they look at the data and how they use it, and they're just so much smarter about things, and watching that kind of firsthand and watching how it is applied here with the number of cameras installed in the stadium and the nutrition and all these things that
the Astros are one of the first teams to really start implementing all of that stuff.
Without a doubt, man. I mean, I have been really fascinated by a lot of the things that I saw them that go into that, and I think that's more common now than not, as far as just how much attention to the data, how much they study you guys, and it's super interesting to watch.
It was all I knew, and you see like guys that are with other affiliates, they were still kind of like the old school way of thinking. It was a little bit different. And we were talking earlier about, we were sitting in the dugout, and I was like, I used to sit here and I would be on the iPad just watching like the TrackMan numbers, right? Because you can just kind of see, or you can see like hot and cold zones from the hitters. And this was 7-8 years ago. Like before it happened, we had all that access. Now every team has it. They're all doing it. But the Astros were kind of the first ones to really start doing it. They actually hired a guy from NASA. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, Sig? I met him, Sig. Yeah,
he was a different guy.
I met him at the winter meeting, so it was always like in a social, them hosting us type thing, and so I didn't know him very well. He's a super fun guy to hang around with, like just when in the setting I saw him in. Yeah. But obviously a brilliant guy. He's with Baltimore now with Mike Elias, I think, right? Yeah, they're both there.
Elias went over there.
Sounds like a nerd.
He was from NASA. So no, seriously. So he didn't play baseball. He had no idea, didn't know anything about sports. But they hired him, and they just collected data for 2 years. All they did was just collect data. And then he created these like algorithms based on statistics and percentages, and he created a formula, like a winning formula based on numbers and science and math. Didn't have anything to do with your eyes watching, because he told Nolan Ryan that him and the other guys, we called them nerds, but they were very, very good at their job. They said that there's no such thing as setting up a hitter, like whether you go, up and in or whatever, and it kind of pissed Nolan Ryan off to where he's like, once you go get in the box, and we'll see if that didn't affect you, right? Because they were saying up and in fastball to back somebody off the plate doesn't have any effect on the hitter based on numbers.
That's interesting, man. I never heard that.
And he goes, okay, well, yeah, it's not going to affect numbers, but I bet you it'll affect you. And he got so pissed. So that how they paired Nolan Ryan and Doug Brocail and Enos Cabell, all those guys that played in the big leagues for a long time, they paired those minds with the science and the numbers and the math, and obviously they've had all kinds of success to where you need the best of both worlds.
Well, even mentioning Sig and Mike Elias, I don't know how many years Mike's been there, but they've already gotten the Orioles to a much better spot now in a short amount of time, and it's that same formula they've taken elsewhere. So it's interesting to see.
It's changed. Football use any data or statistics, or is it just full blown?
No,
outside of film and stuff.
No, they use they more track like the person. So like they track like their like how many yards they've ran and their exertion of like their body, right, to kind of get them ready for Sunday. Because we'll wear these things called like catapults. If you see like the guys wearing like the little sports bra things, right?
Yeah, the minor league guys would wear those.
Yeah, so you would wear those, and they would track like how much your output is for like the whole day, and you can go in and you can look at all this stuff and see all the data and the like your heart rate and like how fast you ran that day, all that kind of stuff, which is like kind of cool.
When they brought that to baseball, so I was in big league camp at the time, and all the minor leaguers, they were having them wear that, and they were tracking everything. And at the big league level, they weren't doing anything because the Players Association wouldn't allow it, because they can use that data against you when it comes to arbitration or your contract. So the Players Association wouldn't allow that. So when guys that were on the 40-man roster would get sent down early from big league camp, they wouldn't wear any of that stuff. They wouldn't allow them to track him. They wouldn't do any of that.
Cause we had some crazy stuff with like quarterback wearing like glasses that can like see the read, like see where his eyes go during the reads and stuff like that, like after, like post snap. Like, so he's wearing like glasses, like without helmets on or anything, but he's out there and it's like watching his head move as like, no, you need to see this read here before you go to this read or whatever it is. It's just like crazy stuff like that. But a lot of it was, I mean, you guys like baseball is so like, there's so many stats available, right? Football, there isn't really. It's more about like getting your body ready for a game, because like you can throw a guy inside, he can't hit it or whatever it is. Like that's a stat. Like I don't have a stat for a D-line pass rush other than like, oh, he likes to do this move 30% of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's really different to like the amount of like stats or analytics that can go into baseball versus football, which is more of like a feel sport, I feel like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Contact.
Yeah. Not even contact. It's more of just
but you guys are, it's more important that you're healthy. So a lot of the data and stuff that you're tracking is for you to be healthy on the field.
Yeah.
Baseball, they track a lot of that too, but you have to perform on the field like at the same time.
Yeah, we did like blood. We did like blood work like a couple times a year. We did like DEXA scans, all this kind of stuff where it's like,
tell you how fat you were.
Make sure you're not getting too fat during the season and like put you on a diet or whatever. But like all that, they could tell like your muscle densities, all that kind of stuff. Like that's what the stuff that we'd look at, where it's like, all right, you're losing a little bit of muscle during like the end of the season. Like let's get you back in the weight room and start working out some more. So that's the kind of stuff that we would dig into.
It's different, two different worlds.
Yeah.
It's great stuff, though. All right, let's change it up a little bit. We need to get Kenny a little bit more involved because he likes the show to be about himself, if you haven't noticed.
Well, you didn't see me out on the field.
A question for both of you guys. You guys can figure this out, but kind of the biggest things in sports right now, individuals having a huge impact on the sports world, every sport. You got Coach Prime in Colorado. Every game is a prime time. They're breaking records with everybody watching. You know, social media is going crazy. You have Messi joins the MLS, probably the most popular athlete in the world. And then you have Taylor Swift dating Travis Kelce. And during the whole game, all they keep doing is showing Travis Kelce or Taylor Swift cheering on Travis Kelce. Out of those three, which one do you think has the biggest impact on sports right now? Kenny, I'm going to start with you.
I think it's Taylor Swift, because her following is absolutely insane.
We're going to sports world,
no doubt.
Not the U.S. Sports world.
Then probably Messi, because Messi's like the biggest figure in sports ever, basically, right? He just got paid $1 billion or something like that. Like,
yeah,
he's
crazy.
He's one of the best athletes in the world's biggest sport, or he is the best athlete in the world's biggest sport.
Yeah. How do you feel about the whole Taylor Swift Kelce thing? Do you think they're blowing it up too much, or they just have to?
I think they just have to. I think it's just something to talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like she's the biggest star, and Kelce's on the best team. He's the best tight end in the league.
Have you seen the videos of the wives and girlfriends filming their husbands? Be like, yeah, nobody knew who Travis Kelce was before he started dating Taylor Swift, and now he's famous. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Travis Kelce. You know?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's all those three things. Like Prime is changing college football, which is cool to like watch, because Like, who doesn't want to play for Deion Sanders, right? Like, I grew up watching that guy high step into the end zone every weekend, you know, like, and all these young kids are like, this guy is like the best to ever do it. Why wouldn't you want to play for him? You know, like that's just like saying, like, I don't know, why wouldn't you want to play for Joe Montana? You know, if he was a coach,
quarterback coach,
quarterback
you want
coach.
to learn
Exactly,
from the best, right?
So it's really cool, and the flashiness of today's world in social media and all that kind of stuff. Prime fits in right where, like, perfectly.
And he loves it.
And loves it too. And he's good at it. And like that whole swagger and all that kind of stuff, kids love it too. So he's like a genius, like promoter, recruiter, all that kind of stuff. Like all the ticket sales that Colorado had, he went from a 1-11 team to what is he now, 3-2, and lost to 2 top 10 teams. I mean, pretty good, you know, like, and it's only gonna get better because more kids are gonna want to come play for him.
Yeah. So what do you think, Derek? Being kind of on the marketing side, seeing this stuff, how do you see these 3 impacting sports?
Well, I'm really fascinated by Messi in particular, just kind of anecdotally because of my kids. Because like I'm a baseball person, right? I work at a baseball stadium, and I got into this because I loved baseball before I realized that I stunk at it, and I just could just sit at a desk right over there and do this. And a year ago, my son's gotten really into baseball the last year, but call it a year ago during World Cup, my son got like soccer fever. All my son and daughter, so my daughter 9 at the time, my son 7, they just have the soccer fever. My son in particular, we got him a jersey, and like, but it's Messi, and they're in the house arguing like who's better, Ronaldo or Messi, and all stuff. And they don't watch a ton of soccer. They're just picking this up from their friends and from the little bit of time they spend on the YouTube or on the tablets and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of watching my kid who plays soccer and then just got really into and he could name all these players. After a month, he could name all these players, tell me he's telling me all this stuff that I don't know about soccer, right? And so I think that is really fascinating, especially when you look back, like for a sport like baseball, that there's that kind of thing from a few years ago where ESPN magazine, I think it was, did the 100 most recognizable or notable athletes in the world, and there was not one baseball player on it, based on whatever metric they did of social media and whatever else. And so during that time, I asked my kids, I said, how many baseball players do you know? He could name all these soccer players. And some basketball players and some football players even. But I remember I'll never forget this conversation, and I asked my daughter first, and I said, can you name who's your favorite baseball player in Major League Baseball? And she said, I don't have a favorite. I said, well, then can you name any players? She said, Babe Ruth. And I said, all right, he's dead. He played a long time ago. That's cool. He's like an icon of the history of baseball. But he doesn't play baseball anymore. Anybody else? And she goes, we learned about, this is the way she said it to me. We learned about a player who was the first black player to be able to play in the white league. I said, Jackie Robinson? Yeah. She said, oh yeah, we learned about him in school. I like him. He doesn't play anymore either, babe. And then she goes, well, I like Zach Veen. Zach Veen played for us here. He's in the minor leagues. He'll be in the major leagues soon. I said, do you know who Aaron Judge is? No. What about Buster Posey? I think I kind of remember. So it was like, wow, there's like so all that to be said, like there's something about the way that like a guy like Messi and is marketing himself to where like my kids knew all this stuff about Messi. They've been around a lot of baseball, not around a lot of soccer. And my son, he knew a few baseball players. Now he knows them all. He like got hooked the last year. But I just have that moment in time where my kids couldn't name anybody but guys who played here or like historic baseball figures, but they knew all these Messis and all this stuff. And I'm really fascinated by it. I think the Taylor Swift thing is hilarious. I love watching like my football friends on Facebook, whatever, be like, stop showing Taylor Swift and let us watch the game. I'm like, that's why they're doing it, because whether you're talking smack about it or you love it, it's moving the needle. And I don't know if this is true. I think I was scrolling around and saw that there was like 2 million more viewers watched the Monday night game, mostly female.
Yeah.
So like as a marketer, you're like, I laughed hysterically. I saw Mark Cuban tweeted something, and he's like, there's a bunch of guys on the Mavericks, forget him. So like every owner of a team or every operator of a team is like, dude, if you could catch the like ridiculous lightning in the bottle that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift is to put eyeballs on your product, like, I don't know. I just think it's hilarious. So I think the Deion and the Messi thing are more like something you could study and like will change things moving forward. And the Taylor Swift thing is just,
I think it's like
I think it's
quick
just,
thing.
I think it's
Trying to
just,
hop on that bandwagon.
I think it's just great though. And I think it's hilarious to watch all my friends get all pissed off about football when I think it's great.
And
Well,
sports is entertainment. Like, doesn't matter. Like you're just saying your daughter couldn't name any baseball player, but people go and watch baseball, right? And then Kenny always says it like he has a helmet on. You know, like he can hide. Baseball players have the hat on. Soccer, they have nothing. You can just see their face, clear as day, just if they're walking down the street. You know, same as basketball. So those guys are going to be a lot more easily recognized than a guy with a football helmet constantly.
Right.
He takes it off, then he goes and puts a cap on. Unless you're a quarterback, nobody really knows who the offensive linemen are unless you're like a fan of that team.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows who I am.
No.
No, definitely not. Not many people.
But you are the man.
I am the man.
You are
Let's
the
get
man.
in what the people have been waiting for this entire podcast. The main reason, first reason was to talk to you because Derek Franks is the man. Second reason was to come and see if Kenny Wiggins could hit a home run outside of Chuck Chansey Stadium. Derek, now I want you to kind of give me the rundown of before, because we first talked about this at the Jose Ramirez fight. We had ran into each other right there, and I said, hey, Kenny thinks he could hit a home run at Chuck Chansey. You know, you start going like,
That is where it started, yeah.
You know, who is this guy? And then, you know, we talked about bringing this thing back and setting this up. So all of that leading up to watching him swing his first few swings, and then you lead it up, and then you tell us what happened.
Okay, so I'm going to start with today, all right? My experience today, because you're right. We ran into each other at the Save Mart Center, and this goes back a few months. I watched you, and I told you when you got here, Kenny, I said, I watched your videos on your Instagram, saw you taking some cage off the tee, and I'm like, this dude's got it. I'm like, he's got it. Dude, he's, what are you, 6'7"?
6'7".
Just a beast. We had to go get the big boy uniform out. Like,
Full
you know,
Full uni.
this
Still
isn't
in.
like, this is a big, powerful man. And I'm like, he's got this. And I'm not going to lie to you. And after your first couple swings, I was like, oh, dude, this dude doesn't have it.
I just had to
You
get
swung and
dialed
missed a
in. I had to get
couple.
dialed
You
in.
popped a couple like straight up to where I was like, shit, we should have got him a helmet because I was afraid one was going to hit off the thing and hit you on the head.
That thing's not
He's been
gonna-
hitting the head a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
He's
Well,
fine.
yeah, he's fine.
I got plenty of CTE to go around.
You know, I'm just like, oh, I don't want him to get hurt. And you quickly shook off like 3 or 4 bad swings, and then just, I mean,
get
the rest
warmed up.
is history, dude.
I
Your
get warmed
your
up.
warm up was a little alarming,
It's all right.
but you pulled through. I mean, fast.
So
I mean, it was like a quick turnaround.
Or did he not hit a home run here?
He did hit the home run. Yes, he did.
2 also.
One with a metal,
the-
one with wood bat.
The best part is he hit the metal, took it out. I mean, it was a good one, and it really only took you a handful of like.
I would say around 20 pitches.
Yeah, it was
about
relatively
20.
fast. And then switched to the wood, and on your last swing, I think you declared this was your last
Yeah.
swing, piped it
Yeah.
almost into Fulton Mall. I mean, it was
My arm was
or
falling off at that point. I had thrown you a lot of pitches.
Yeah.
I would say that your percentages were not very good of getting the balls out of the cage. I would
That's
say
just
you're
'cause I
probably
was-
like 50, but you hit 2 homers. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to do.
Doesn't matter.
If I was trying to hit base hits, I would have been better because I would have flattened my bat out a little.
you hit one. The first one you made contact with would have like decapitated a third baseman too. That was when you're like, just get that one up, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the turning point, pretty early on.
Dude,
in
I
the
was
whole deal.
trying my best just to put it in your wheelhouse. And
You
whenever
did. You were fine.
Yeah, whenever you put one like shortstop to left field, I was like, "What are you doing? Stop! Just pull it as hard as you could." And I know that you were, because the best chance is going down the left field line, right? And I was just trying my best. Just
But that's
to
where I
groove
always hit
in
it.
there
I
for
always
you.
was Pete Rose hole. Always. Like that was like my sweet spot. And just like, if I knew I was gonna get it, I was gonna be like left center to left, like not right down the line, because that's just too much opening up for me in my brain. So like that's where my sweet spot is right there over the left center. And I
You
put
did
it,
it, man.
I put it out there twice in the same spot.
I'm so stinking proud of you. I would have been upset if he didn't do it. I had to talk trash a little bit just to like hype it up. But
I don't think I would have done this podcast if I didn't not put one out.
no, he wouldn't. He would have went home. He would have quit. I wouldn't have seen it from.
Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't have
told
seen
me it was
for 3
over
weeks.
if it didn't happen today. Like the
Yeah.
whole thing would be over.
The
You
whole
hit
thing
my
would be
favorite
over.
type of home run, that last one, the ones that hit over the bleachers and hit that little concrete walkway and bounce real high. I mean, those are the crowd pleasers.
Over
man.
the bleachers. You heard it there. You heard it here first.
Those are the
folks.
crowd pleasers, man.
Yeah.
When it takes that high hop off the concrete, people love it.
Good for
with,
you.
with the wood too.
With a wood bat. Shout out to David Rome.
So he
for
owes you-
providing you with 20 wood bats for you to take your choice
I
of.
only needed one.
So I asked earlier, the bet was you owe him tacos. Is that the
No.
Izzy owes me
Israel.
tacos.
Israel. So the
Oh,
bet
oh.
was if he couldn't do it, Israel had to buy him tacos. And if he did do it, Israel had to buy him tacos. If he didn't do it, he would have to provide a taco truck for everybody. And we had already spoke with Mike Oz about how much a taco truck costs because we saw him at the gym the other day.
Yeah, you know the guy.
Hey, Mike, do you have a truck? Because Kenny's gonna have to buy tacos for everybody. So we had that in. So yeah, we're gonna go. We had to go to a little Mexican shop, and Israel's not getting his pay for the day. He's got to pay tacos to the big man because he did it.
Anytime you guys need a DH or anything, just let me know.
I mean, I just sell popcorn for a living, but I'll let them know.
Anytime you need a popcorn salesman, just let me know.
I could do that. Yeah, that I am in control of. Yeah.
Heck yeah. Good stuff, Derek. I appreciate you opening up your doors, open up the whole stadium for us, for this guy to come and pretend to be a baseball player. Next, he's gonna get on a bull. We're gonna get him to ride a bull.
And Tyson's going to get in a ring with an amateur boxer.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
there
gonna
we
get in
go.
a ring with. I tried to fight Jose Ramirez, but he wouldn't let me because he said he would just take it easy on
I'm
me.
going to get on an amateur bowl. You're going to fight an amateur boxer.
Amateur bull, yeah.
Same thing.
Amateur boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm pumped. Thanks, Derek. You're the man. Make sure you guys follow us Instagram, YouTube. We're now on TikTok. A lot of good stuff there. Almost got in a fight with a kid in the comments because he
know how
said we only
TikTok
had a
works.
little bit of followers. But it's like, dude, we just made it. Relax. But yeah, follow us, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time.